step. You gave us lots of data, and I'm a programmer, and I like playing with data and making interesting things out of it. And where I usually start is looking at what you already have, what kind of things you're trying to explain to people, maybe what's missing, what you're not showing to people, looking around for gaps. So my first piece of work was just looking around at the sites that you already have, like apps. You've got a couple of mobile apps you've done with King's College. There's some visualization of air pollution data that I found. And I found this quite interesting because this is something that's very important to people in London, because you experience London on a day-to-day basis, and people who have breathing difficulties, or even just cyclists who don't have breathing difficulties, or walking around the street, often notice pollution around them, but there's no way in advance really of kind of finding out about that sort of stuff around you. And I thought that was an interesting data set that you already had, and could be exploited in an interesting way. So I had a look around on the King's College site, and I don't want to insult anybody, but I found that it was very academic, and it's a college, so of course it would be academic. And there was lots of really interesting stuff if you delved around, all these really beautiful graphics coming out. This is a rendering of nitrous oxide emissions over a year period across the whole of central London. And this is fascinating because you can see there are whole areas of the city that are very pollutant-free, and then there's very, very dense areas in the middle. But there are also surprising areas that maybe aren't as dense as you thought they were. And this got me thinking that if you're walking around the city, wouldn't it be nice if there was some way of kind of ambiently finding out about this, or just getting some idea of what it means, and which areas of the city have quite high pollution and which areas have quite low pollution. But I also came with a bit of a fixed idea, and I didn't want to make a map or something like that. That's been done before. So I thought I'd make a game for children instead. And I'd like to introduce you to Smobble. Smobble is a lovable little character, a bit sensitive, and he's walking around London, who likes to get from A to B without dying. It's quite unfortunate, Smobble, actually. So yes, what we have to do is we have to help this poor creature get about. There's some sounds, you may be a bit quiet. And what you see in the background here are, I nearly got there, but this is pollution data, from the previous screen. So this is high areas, low areas. These are bad and they hurt you, and these areas are kind of okay, but generally you just have to make sure you're wandering around and collecting the oxygen in time. And so there's a bit of a reggae soundtrack going on, and he kind of wanders around from place to place. He knows his health is going down, so he's getting a bit hungry for some oxygen. You have the oxygen, health goes up, better get to the next one, and it's kind of whack-a-mole for oxygen, I guess. And eventually the poor little chap expires, and it's all very sad. There we go, he died. And it's very competitive, so I suspect that many of you will be able to beat me on my 514 point score. But there's also a serious element to it, in that my next step, what I've got there with this, is that what I'd like is to start labelling these things. So you, this could be, say, King's Cross here, maybe this is St Paul's over there, and by playing the game, you just might get a little bit of a sense of which areas of the city are areas that you might want to avoid if you're going on a bike. Very, very subtle, very, very background kind of information style project. But I think it's the kind of thing that people might play, and might be a different way of getting that information out to a very different audience. So that's Smobble. And I stopped there. That was just my first day of hack. So I woke up this morning thinking, I wish I could have got this data in. I really wish. And I couldn't. It was very hard. The previous screen I showed you was an image. And I don't know, maybe I didn't find the right place to look or something, but the only data I managed to get out was an image. I couldn't actually get the numbers, couldn't get the actual underlying stuff. Like that location has this much nitrous oxide per year, and I couldn't get that. And maybe I can somewhere, I'm sure you'll be able to tell me, but in the time we had I didn't do it. But I did find another data set that made me able to do a different app. And this is it smoggy in London right now? Which is a question that I'm sure many of you have asked yourselves before you're going off to work. And it's the kind of really basic question that you can answer with a simple little website that just answers that. It doesn't do anything else. It's an app, it's online already, and I guess you'll just type that into Google and it will come up eventually. And this page will update depending on how smoggy it is that day. So if we pick a really smoggy day, smogtastic, not a good day for being around London. You can see that it's showing you the various points, and they haven't updated because I've faked it for you. But this is kind of, I'm using a bit of humour here, because those are the kinds of things that spread. The real intervention here is just getting it into people's brains that you can find out the information around you about the emissions and the pollutants that are going to affect you. But crucially, this also has a use in that you can click on any of these points. And let's say I live down here in Hounslow, and click on Hounslow, and I get an air quality meter. Very simple, single, one page, doesn't do anything else. It just gives you an air quality rating. And that's actually live data. So there's 99 sensors that I've pulled data into, and I have 99 of these meters. And on your phone, if you go to that address, you've got a little app you can install on your device. And you click the air quality meter, it loads the same thing. Choose this moment to go to no signal.
Yeah, no signal as well, then don't worry. We'll live that.
It might work. I may have to ask you to
Oh, no,
there you go. Air quality meter.
Is that here or there?
What do you mean?
Is it tracking you?
Oh no, this is, what the idea here is that there's an interesting, there was a philosopher who said that most people living in a city only have kind of 3 locations: home, office, and where they go to the gym or something. You just bookmark all 3, and then you know that at home that's what I'm expecting. But home probably isn't very polluted. The office, you might want to know that it's going to be 8 that day, and that might affect your decision about what you do. You might work from home that day. So there's slight alterations in behaviour you could get from that. And then I thought, what happens if we open that up to other people? Because I said I had trouble with the data, I've added another layer on the APIs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term API. Some of you maybe are. It's an application programming interface. It's a standard way that you kind of move data from one thing to another. But there's a community of people who do stuff with these sensors. They love it. They have sensors in their houses and stuff. The people have a sensor that tells them which way to go when they go out of their home, which Boris bike stand has got the most bikes. So I'll go left instead of right. That's the kind of thing these guys do. And what I did is I just took all 99 sensors, I wrote a little script, and I stuffed it in here. And that means other people can then reuse the stuff that you're already doing in a way that you hadn't expected. And I think that's something that I think you should be looking at, opening up your data in another kind of meta level. And you can kind of play with that. I don't want to go too far. But you'll notice I've been holding this QR code in my hand, and I saw that lovely map you have in reception. And I'm just thinking you need to do something with data on that map. And my suggestion is you just put some QR codes, you've seen these things, on that map, and you connect that to that just by taking a photograph of it. And you've got a live view of all of London, all these different interesting data sources in a communal, beautiful environment that people are already experiencing. That's me.